Okay, all right. It looks like we're already live, but none of the Twitter's up. Where are you, YouTube? Are you going to show your face? Reveal yourself. Oh, there's YouTube. YouTube is here. What's up, YouTube? Good to see you. Hope you're well. What's up, everybody? Hey, Zeus, how's it going? You're ready? So am I. Love it. Let's just make sure we're good on the Rockfin. Things were a little weird waking up, y'all. I think there was probably a few seconds where I was just sort of sitting in total silence, not realizing what the situation was. But I think we're good now. So that's good. Wait up. Let me go back. Sorry. Oh, no. Come on. Don't do that to me. Oh, come on. No. Come on now. There we go. All right. Sorry, guys. I got booted out of the. I kind of messed up there for a second, but we're good now. What's up, Jesus? What's up, Phoenicia? What's up, everybody? All right. Good to see everyone. We are live. Everything is good. I am good. Sorry about that quick hiccup there. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. And it's afternoon everywhere now. This is Monday afternoon. This is that time of the month where we do MMT time. Let me get to that in just a second. But welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. And as you guys know, I will announce very quickly that we are going to be switching up the day. Now, this week, we always do Monday on this particular week, the second Monday of the month. But we will be switching the day from the regular Thursdays starting next week. As some of you already know, I am a host over at Status Coup every Thursday. From now on, Thursdays, myself and Tina Desiree Berg are hosting Status Coup. So I'm going to switch out the day for Get Your News On with Ron. Doing 2 streams in a day. I don't want to be doing that. So we'll probably be doing Get Your News On with Ron on Wednesdays. For this week, it's Monday. And before next week, I'll be announcing, for sure, definitively, yes, it is going to be this day. But in the meantime, this week, we got our MMT segment of the month. And joining me, so we're going to be talking about, there's that thing that you've probably seen in the corporate media where they talk about how forgiving student loan debt is actually regressive. And that is as nonsensical as it sounds. It's complete nonsense. But we're going to dissect why. And helping me do this, he's done a lot of work on this on his own. He is a recently soon-to-be MMT scholar pursuing a master's degree. We're going to be talking more about that next month. But please welcome back to the show my MMT dealer, the dude that deals in MMT, Mr. Jeff Epstein. What's up, Jeff?
How you doing, Ron? MMT scholar. Someday it actually will be valid. Whew, that's scary.
Dude, you're on your way, man.
Wow.
You're on the. Are we allowed to say that the first day of school is later today?
Sure. 4 hours from right now is my first class of my first session of my first class of my master's degree at Torrens University, which is MMT plus ecological economics.
So this is kind of a touching personal story to me. When I was a kid growing up, and I'm sure like a ton of parents did this, but like we always did this thing where my mom would take a picture of us waving at the door, right? From like kindergarten up, like even when I was going away to college, just as like a gag, she would do it. Like I would stand at the front door and wave, and I had like long hair and piercings and shit by this point. And so my mom did that every year. So my mom went back to school to like finish up, a couple years ago, and she finished her undergraduate and even did some graduate work. And so like to flip the script, I totally made her take a picture standing at the front door and waving.
Oh, nice.
But I was taking it. So it was a cool moment, And,
congratulations to her. That's great that she's doing that.
Yeah. I'm happy for her. But yeah, do you have anything like that? Like, did you have your kids? You should have your kids take a picture of you holding like a lunchbox or something.
Hadn't thought of that. I will consider it and let you know.
It's not too late, man. You can totally do that. They should do. Did they do any? Like, did you get like a cake or something? Did they do anything?
No, I now that I'm thinking about it, the more I think about it, the less I think my family cares about me. I'm getting more upset the more you talk.
Oh man.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And just to very quickly review, this program is created by our friends Stephen Hale and Phil Wan, and it's MMT plus ecological economics, which means considering, the world that we actually live in and not exacerbating the climate crisis and maybe even doing something about it. Yeah, I'm very excited. And actually, before we get started, I want to congratulate you. I know you had your big show on Saturday, so I hope that went well.
Man. Yeah. I launched my new show doing Lucian the Satirist, a writer from 125 AD. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun, and I did it in costume and everything. And if anyone would like to see that video, if you are a patron, you can see it. I posted the video on Patreon, but I will not be posting it anywhere else because I want to try to do the show at Renaissance fairs throughout the country. So if you're a patron, you can check it out now, folks. And you
I have one question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have one question about it, and that is it solid, or based on how it went and the feedback and whatever, will it be undergoing big changes or some significant changes?
Well, it's going to always be evolving. I feel like that was a really diplomatic way of saying, did it suck or no?
No, not at all. Often when you first do a show, you intend it to be kind of developing over time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was definitely a good, like, people seemed to like it, and there was a little bit of everything. Like, some people didn't know what to expect at all. Other people, like, they were excited to just see the show. So they like Googled Lucian ahead of time to like know a little bit about him. But my goal is that you don't have to do that. So I was asking people, and, for the most part, people were like, yeah, I didn't know anything about the guy, but I was able to follow everything. It's a very accessible show. You don't need to, I want to do this show at Renaissance fairs where like half the people are drunk anyway. They're not gonna, so it's a very, it is based on his writing, but it's a very accessible show because he was like a humor writer, basically. So, I mean, obviously I adapt the language so that it's like appropriate for today, but it's still based on like his work. Like, it's not like, and he has over 70 works to choose from. So it'll kind of always be evolving based on, the stuff that he did.
Cool. That's great.
But thank you for asking, man. I appreciate that. And so we both have some neat things going on, and congratulations on your first day.
Thank you.
If I lived near you, I would buy you a drink or something. But we're far apart.
There is mail. There is YouTube. I mean, Venmo. There is.
I'll mail you a beer.
Every now and then we get to actually see each other.
I'll send you a beer via carrier pigeon. I'll do something next time we cross paths, man. I'll buy you a congratulations on grad school shot or something.
Awesome.
But anyway, dude. So let's hop into this. So let's start very basic. We have an article here from JP Morgan and then or wait, did I miss? Yeah, JP Morgan and Chase, that outlet. And, you've seen this in the news where they're just like, well, actually, forgiving student loan debt is regressive, which is absurd at so many levels. But let's start super basic. So just
well, first, it is not I would say it's a report. It's actually, they deliberately did research, and this is the report of that research, as opposed to just like an article in Bloomberg.
They did, but I mean, well, and you talk about this, and I read it too. Like, the way they analyze their own report is something. But but yes, it was in fact a report. They do take data. How they interpret the data is wow. But that's what we're here to talk about.
That's a good summary. Wow.
That's what you got out of that, huh? But that's what we're here to talk about. But let's start a little basic, Jeff. So
sure.
In your own words, just define regressive. What does that mean exactly?
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about this whole show, is how do you define regressive? Because this report and another article that I found can make the term regressive mean whatever they want it to mean. And how they choose to make that term, what they choose to define that term as, is critically important. And on its surface, this report defines regressive in a way that seems to make sense. The other ones are just absolutely absurd, which we'll get into. But the point of this is that they want to say the term regressive in a so-called good faith way that they mean it. And no, that the recipient of that information is going to take that word regressive and interpret it in their own way, which makes a lot more sense. And they're going to say, oh, it's regressive in the way that makes sense, so therefore student debt is regressive in a way that makes sense. When in reality, they're using the term in a really manipulative, misleading way.
Right. So how would you define it, though?
The actual definition, based on the writing that I saw of an economist responding to this on Twitter, which makes perfect sense, is that if a policy, before a policy, we have a certain level of inequality. And if after that policy is implemented, we have much less inequality, then that is progressive. That is not regressive. That's what it means. It has to be evaluated over time. It's not something that can be evaluated in the moment. So this article says that it is regressive, that when we cancel student debt, rich people get a lot more of that cancellation than poor people. That is true. And on its face, that seems kind of regressive. We give more cancellation money, more cancellation dollars to the rich than to the poor. But as we're going to see, that doesn't make sense, because even though it's technically true, it's not the spirit of regressive, because after this policy is implemented, inequality is greatly decreased. And we'll get into why.
Right. So, well, let's go to the article itself, and we're just going to kind of skip around. So on August 24th, 2022, the Biden administration announced it would cancel up to $20,000 of federal student debt for certain borrowers, and they have the income cap here. Now, here's the graph that they point to.
This is the money. What do you call it? The money shot, or the whatever.
The money.
What
that usually we'll go with that. I think that usually.
Yeah, what's it called when the movie's terrible, but there's one moment that's worth the price of admission? Like, this is it.
No, I gotcha. So here's the chart. And so basically, like, this is what you're referring to, right, Jeff? Like, this is kind of saying that, like, more people that have more wealth are technically getting a larger amount forgiven. Which, so break that down for me a little bit, because I thought that Biden's thing, the thing that was sort of in flux was the Pell Grant stipulation, right? Because it was just 10 or 20, and then it depended on the Pell Grant. So are they coming up with this number because they're saying that generally people with more means get the Pell Grant, or explain how they got there?
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead, which is a very small point, but a very important point, which is, number one, this is only Biden's plan is only valid for households, I think it is, or individuals that make $125,000 or less.
Right.
So that's first of all. So the quartile here, the one thing that I found out, which I don't quite understand, but I spoke with a PhD economist about this, the quartiles are misleading only in the sense that the final quartile 5, the richest one, implies in this chart that it's infinite, meaning the upper boundary is billions of dollars, when in reality, they're only forgiving families or individuals who have 125 less in income. So that's misleading. And one final point, which is important.
Data, so wait, let me just clarify then. Their own data is kind of effed up too.
Yeah, I don't quite understand that part of it, but there's definitely something wrong, because their quartile 5 implies that there's no boundary.
They're not in the cap.
Yeah, and then the other part that's a problem, which again is a small but important point, is that in an analysis of this analysis in the Wall Street Journal, it makes it clear that they're overcounting rich people and they're undercounting poor people. So even this, what they call regressive, is less so, because they're overcounting rich people and undercounting poor people. So the left side here says that rich people who make more than $116,000 a year get more cancellation dollars. And that's true in a sense, given the things that we just said. That is true, because if one person has $250,000 in loans, forgetting Biden's cap, just to explain this generally, if one person has $250,000 in loans because they're an eye doctor, and I have a friend that actually is kind of roughly this case, but she makes $150,000 a year. $250,000 in debt is a big deal, but that's manageable. $150,000 a year in income, that's a big deal, but I can handle that. And then we have 9 other people that have $25,000 in debt. So total is a 225 total among those 9 people, which is less than that eye doctor who has 250. If we cancel all of their debt and they have a lower income, so that number again is big, but it's manageable to them. If we cancel all their debt, more money goes to the rich person. That one rich person gets 250. All the others only get 25 each, but all their debt is canceled. And after this process, we have helped 9 average people with less money and 1 rich person with more money. So after this policy would be done, inequality would be dramatically reduced. And that's what's reflected in the right-hand graph.
The right-hand column kind of more breaks it down where they're like, well, actually, it's poorer people who are eased, poorer in comparison people who are eased by the burden because more of them have their debt fully canceled. And also, let's also point out, and I guess this probably goes without saying, but truly rich people don't have student debt to begin with. So the whole, it's like we're talking on a scale here where we're talking people who make more than some others, but the richest of the rich, they don't have any student loan debt to begin with.
They don't go to public schools. And there's actually a ridiculously hysterical unrelated article saying that free college is bad and it's regressive. Why? Because inequality would be exacerbated if the government canceled these, if they spent money to make free college, then they would have less money to give to loans to poor people that want to go to private colleges that still charge money. So number one, that implies that the government doesn't make money, which is nonsense. And number two, it's saying that you have free college, but really you're losing an opportunity to go to an Ivy League college. And it also says, I'm going to read a one-sentence quote here. One of the benefits of university for students from low-income families is the exposure that they get to students from more privileged background. And if we make public college free, they won't be exposed to those rich people. And that is their definition of regressive and unequal. So that is a ridiculous definition of the term regressive. And that's misinterpreted by average people as, it means, what regressive really means to me.
So they're making the claim to like just kind of give like a really, really brief summary. And then I think next we'll go to your Twitter thread.
Sure.
They're making the claim that, it's regressive because people with more means, like in a hypothetical that student loan debt is forgiven, people with more means will get more debt amounts forgiven, but it's actually lower income people that will get their entire debt amount forgiven and would have presumably a more unmanageable debt in the first place. So that's a very, very skewed way to analyze data to draw the conclusion that, this is regressive. It's almost as if they have an agenda. Call me crazy.
Almost. It's so the left chart and their own conclusion says student debt cancellation is slightly regressive based on their conclusions and their data, and that's what the left graph shows. It's slightly regressive in their definition of the term because somewhat more cancellation money goes to the rich, but it is dramatically better for solving inequality because dramatically more poor people have their debt fully canceled. And the big thing here is the difference in debt versus income. Right. So if someone's $250,000 in debt is canceled, what is their income? To them, they make $150,000 a year, hypothetically. But to someone who has $25,000 in debt and only makes $30,000 a year, to them, $25,000 is an enormous deal. So that's the kind of stuff that they don't want you to think about.
So let's go to your thread where you kind of break this down a little deeper. The new study declares student debt cancellation is slightly regressive, quote unquote, which, let's just, That's bullshit. The fact that they have to put the slightly in there, that means that they're bullshitting. That means that they're cherry picking data to fit some nonsense narrative they're trying to sell you. Yep. But we'll break it down why it really is. Because, quote, slightly more cancellation dollars go to the wealthy. I mean, this is why they hope you never read past the headline. They're going to publish a headline, the student loan debt is actually regressive. And they hope you don't read the details, because if you do, and you're a reasonable person, you will conclude this is complete bullshit. So anyway, for at least 3 reasons, says Jeff, we're getting to Jeff here. For at least 3 reasons, the study is little more than propaganda for those who can't stand the idea of helping poor people. So let's skip around this thread. Problem 1, a bogus definition of regressive. You already spoke about this example. Somebody who makes $150K a year, who has $250 in student loan debt, that's a manageable debt when they're making more, i.e. $150K a year. Meanwhile, somebody with less debt, but they only make $40 a year. Yeah, okay. So you already broke this part down. The study examines Biden's just done student debt cancellation, 1020 for those making less than $125K in income. Here's the screenshot. The left graph does show that slightly more cancellation dollars do indeed go to the wealthiest borrowers. It also shows in the right graph that way more of the lowest income borrowers have their debt entirely canceled. So their own data kind of points out that, like, no, this is not regressive. All right, so let's go to your next tweet. The study's major conclusion is that student loan debt cancellation is, quote, slightly regressive. Again, bullshit. When the truth is that it's highly progressive. This is because inequality after this policy is implemented is greatly reduced compared to before. All right, so what else would you like to add to that?
We actually, not we, Marshall Steinbaum, who's mentioned in the next tweet, actually mentioned this to one of the 3 authors.
So he said he deleted this.
Yeah, no, but I remember what it says, and it doesn't really matter. Right. He asked the author, he said to the author, your definition of regressive is something that's never used in terms of national economics. And the author responded, one of the 3 co-authors responded, and he said, what do you mean, or please elaborate. And then he also followed up with that your definition of regressive is basically nonsense, and that it's basically, to push an agenda as opposed to, be accurate. And the author, one of the 3 co-authors, tagged his other 2 co-authors. And then that was the last they were ever heard of. So my speculation, I have no idea.
Responded? He got his buddies and they both had nothing.
So my speculation, I have no idea, but my speculation is that one of the 3 authors was of good faith and trying to do his best and earnest and whatever. And then his other 2 buddies were like, don't respond. Just shut up. You want your paycheck? Just shut up. That's basically what happened.
Like the one dude basically was like, hey, are we the bad guys? Shut up. Get off Twitter. This guy's saying our definition of how do you not know that if you're an academic of the field? How do you not know, like, hey, I was supposed to write an article about addition. I wrote it about subtraction. I have a math degree.
To an average person, when you say more money goes to the rich than to poor, that on its face, without looking any further, that feels regressive,
to
right?
Someone to an average person who you just shout the headline at, but to someone who's writing the piece, who has the data right in front of them.
Sure.
And supposedly some qualifications. Yeah, you should be able to go a little deeper than a headline written for someone who reads at a 6th grade level or below.
Which suggests that this report is not, the purpose of this report is not the data itself, but the headline. Yeah. And that headline is intended to be misinterpreted by average people. And it kind of makes me think of, it's so skewed and manipulated, the data, that data truthful? Meaning, what they show what seems to be truthful data. It shows what what they've honestly, all of the qualifications that they have, and the, they've made some, they had to make some choices, and they seem to be open about all of those choices. But in the end, it's so manipulated that it's just like, why not just blatantly lie? Why do you even put out the honest data to begin with if you're just going to blatantly lie in the end? Just lie.
Because well, yeah, but because, to like, I mean, I know you're being slightly rhetorical, but to like actually answer that question, because they, like, the first true rule of argumentation, it's all about how you arrange your data.
So a seed of truth.
So right. So somebody in that field, they're going to arrange that data, and that's what they do. And look, it's not always used for deceptive means. We have to analyze data. Like, otherwise you just have a bunch of raw data. Like, you have to analyze it to some degree where you say, okay, what does this mean? And there's software that helps you analyze this stuff to find commonalities, to find common threads, to better analyze what's in front of you. But when you analyze it with a true agenda, well, that's when you're making pretzels with data, man. They're doing pretzel logic.
That reminds me of something else, like CBO, the whatever budget office,
the chief budget office, right?
No, I don't think that's the first word is correct, but we both know what we're talking about, where they say, that Social Security is going to run out in 20 years.
Corrupt budget office.
I think that might be it. Yeah, I think that might be it.
I thought it was cheap. It might be something else, man. I don't know.
No, well, since 2013, I think it became.
But I know what you're talking.
But anyway,
about.
I have they say, Social Security is going to run out in 20 years, whatever, 16 years, and that's obviously nonsense. They're not going to run out of money. The national government is not going to run out of money. Okay, but I have no doubt that the people who work almost all, the vast majority of people who. Congressional Budget Office. Yeah. Thank you,
Wendy.
Thank you.
Wendy in the chat.
I have no doubt that most people there are of good faith. But if you hand someone of good faith absolutely crap data and crap tools, no matter how good faith they are, they're going to do bad things. And that's what I think happened with this co-author that, seemed earnest at first and then, stopped responding. Like, they gave this person
but he wasn't
very rigid, restrictions. And he did his absolute best within those restrictions. And then only afterwards did he realize that the world around that report revealed that report is absolute nonsense.
Maybe you're right. And deep down, that person has a good heart. But here's the cold hard truth, man. You were able to take that same data, and I was able to look at that same data. And still, I mean, yes, that data was cherry picked, but there was still enough of it that you could look at it and be like, oh, what you guys are claiming here is bullshit. This is complete bullshit. Looking at your own data. So I don't know.
Average people,
maybe deep down,
us average people can go onto Twitter and tell PhDs that they're spewing nonsense. And we're right. And this is one of those cases that these important people are putting out these credentialed people are putting out these, neutral, natural sounding stuff. And you and me, schmoes, you and me, go onto Twitter and we show you're wrong. And we know that that's right. We know we're correct about that.
Well, these types of folks are going to officially be your colleagues pretty soon, Jeff. You're starting the journey. You're getting those credentials, man. Jeff.
If anyone wants to corrupt me,
who tuned in later, Jeff starts grad school today.
3 hours or 3.5 hours from now. Ooh, in MMT. So if anyone would like to corrupt me, I will give you my information.
Jeff, thanks for breaking this down. It's awesome to, you hear that around like, oh, student loan forgiveness is actually regressive. I'm so contrarian. It's absolute nonsense. It's nice to be able to knock that over directly using their own data against them. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Please tell everybody where they can find you in the meantime before you start school today.
Could I make one quick point before we close? Yeah. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
So So regressive can mean other things too, as I mentioned before. The ridiculous one of if poor people can't interact with rich people, then that's inequality. That's regressive. It's just nonsense. And a lot of it is actually based on the idea that government cannot create money. Only we can. So the government has to collect it from us before they get it. And that implies that if they give free college or if they cancel student debt, then you and I are going to have our taxes taken from, and rich people even more so.
That's the other.
And that, by definition, means that the government will have less money to do other things. And that right there is another definition of regressive to them, that by helping poor people is actually hurting poor people. So they're saying it's regressive, meaning it hurts poor people. And I don't want to hurt poor people because I care about poor people, when in reality, they want to crush poor people. And it's all based on these false assumptions of, like, such as the government doesn't create money. And given that assumption is true, they can act in good faith and say that in good faith. It's regressive. It hurts poor people, and I want to help poor people. But that's the assumption that they have hiding behind there. So that's the final point.
All right. So where can people go to find you?
Activist MMT on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Patreon. If you would like to support my work and my degree, I've decided to slow down from one a week to one a month. This is my third year of my podcast, and I really want to keep it going. And so that's how I've chosen to balance it out. So,
well, Jeff, again, thank you for doing this. Thank you for breaking this down. Thank you for clarifying some stuff that is intentionally foggy by the corporate media. And have fun in school, man. Have an exciting first day. I am rooting for you. I am rooting for you. I hope you treat yourself to something. I don't know if you're gonna have pizza for dinner or what it's gonna be. But
I'm saving it until the next time I see you in 2.5 years.
All right, man. I don't know if you should go.
We'll go out for pizza and a beer.
I think you can do something nice in the meantime. But yeah, we'll definitely have that as well. Well, dude, seriously, I am very happy for you. Best of luck in school, and I look forward to having a more in-depth discussion about that specifically. Next segment we do next month. And yeah, man, congratulations.
Thank you
for being here. All right, peace, buddy. Jeff, you guys know Jeff. He's here every month. We might be switching the day up. I'm gonna have to text him. He has school to worry about right now, but yeah, you guys know I'm switching. Get your news on with Ron stuff around a little bit. So yeah, we may need to change the day for Jeff in the future, or maybe not. I mean, maybe we can just keep it at the Monday. It depends on what he has going on too. But anyway, in the meantime, MMT time, you know it, where we discuss an issue through the lens of MMT and breaking it down. And we just explained to you why, when they say student loan debt forgiveness is regressive, there's a large list of reasons why that is complete and other nonsense. And we just broke that all down for you. So thank you, Jeff, for that. Let's move on to some other stories today. You know what? We're going to stay in the theme of back to school. Because, first of all, it is back to school for the youth of today. Great band. And it's also back to school for Jeff, who just got off the show. Jeff is going back to school tonight. Very excited for Jeff. And I got to tell you guys, I published this in my Digital Rights Disco column that came out earlier this morning. There are a large number of reasons why I am glad I am not a young person in grade school or middle school or high school right now. Long list of reasons. First of all, I'll be honest, I didn't love it when I was there. But second of all, I can't imagine, and I don't know about y'all, but I can't imagine what it would have been like going to school with frickin' the internet the way it is now. I'm old enough that, I mean, we had the internet when I was in middle school and grade school, but it was nowhere near what it is now. Like I didn't even, I mean, not even everyone had AIM right away. I mean, I still remember when I got it, AOL Instant Messenger, for anyone who is too young to remember that, which there might be some folks watching who are, but that's what that was. But anyway, now, of course, students are online for everything. They're online all the time. So what this means is they're basically under surveillance all the time. There are literally school surveillance companies that exist. Among them are Gaggle, Bark, And well, we're gonna get to the article here in a little bit. Now, kind of like a disclaimer here before we begin. I understand that you need to have some amount of supervision when you have a group of young students and they're all freaking online. I understand you don't want, some regular student to just have access to the entire internet all the time. I get that. But it is one thing to kind of, monitor and filter accessibility to certain websites. It's another thing to monitor all digital movements students make. Those are two very, very, very different things. And this article really breaks it down, and it breaks down the danger. This is called The Risk of Student Surveillance Amid Abortion Bans and LGBTQ Restrictions. This is from The Guardian, and they break it down. So here's some stuff that goes on. As states adopt but now we're going to skip the first story here and just kind of go to the themes here. But now, as states adopt anti-LGBTQ laws and abortion bans, the digital footprint that Thomas and other students leave may come back to harm them. This is what privacy and civil rights advocates warn, and it could be their school-issued devices that end up exposing them to that legal peril. For years, schools across the U.S. have used digital surveillance tools that collect information about youth sexuality, intimate details that are gleaned from students' conversations with friends, diary entries, and search histories. Also, student information collected by surveillance companies is regularly shared with police, according to a recent survey conducted by the nonprofit Center for Democracy and Technology. These two realities are concerning to Elizabeth Lard, the center's director of equity and civic technology. Right now, without doing anything, schools may be getting alerts about students. If you are in a state that has a law that criminalizes abortion, right now this tool could be used to enforce those laws. So we've already heard cases of Facebook messages being intercepted and then given away by Facebook when people are trying to find abortion information. That's already happening. We've reported on that on this show. This is in regards to school surveillance software companies that are keeping track of everything a student is doing. Teens across the country are already organizing and disseminating information to fill the void for themselves and their peers in the current climate. People are switching to Signal, stuff like that. LGBTQ students face similar risks as lawmakers in Florida and elsewhere impose rules that prohibit classroom discussions about sexuality and gender. This year alone, lawmakers have proposed 300 anti-LGBTQ laws and about a dozen that have become law. They include the, quote, Don't Say Gay laws in Florida and Alabama that ban classroom discussions about gender and sexuality. So here's what's happening. This is kind of the big thing here. So these companies, which here's the main ones here: Go Guardian, Gaggle, Securely, and Bark. Those are like the main student surveillance companies. So federal law has required that school technology block access to images that are obscene, contain child sexual abuse images, or are deemed harmful to minors. Now, that's a good thing, obviously. I don't know anyone who's against that. We don't want kids looking at those kind of things in school, obviously. You don't want kids looking at pornography while they're at school. I don't know anyone who would. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. That's a good thing. Here's the problem, though. But in some cases, the filtering software has been programmed to block pro-LGBTQ websites that aren't explicit, including those that offer crisis counseling. So again, it goes way too far. It goes way too far. Here's a good quote. So basically, by immediately and permanently deleting data which contains a student's reproductive health data or searches for reproductive health information, such data is not in our possession and therefore not producible under a court order or subpoena. So that's what the Bark CEO is saying. So if this is true, you should probably be deleting your data pretty frequently. So this is... Now, of course, all the people at all these companies, they're saying like, oh, we don't collect data for this reason. This stuff cannot be used to flag health-related search items. But meanwhile, the opposite is happening. the opposite is happening, where this stuff is being used against students, messages are being intercepted, and students are much more vulnerable online in a way that is a gross overreach. Again, modifying, having some restrictions as to what websites they can go to. That's one thing. That's fine. I don't know anyone that would be against that. But monitoring their every move, especially when maybe they are an LGBTQ youth who needs access to resources. Maybe they are seeking abortion information. Maybe they just want to have a private diary. And this is basically trampling all over their civil rights. And this is very dangerous. A, it's dangerous for a student's safety. And B, it's really dangerous from a societal standpoint, because what kind of world are we living in if students and young people, instead of seeing the internet as an amazing and valuable tool with limitless potential, and it is now up to them to foster and build it and take us into the tomorrow with it, instead of seeing the internet as that, they see it as a weapon to be used against them. That is dangerous. And that is very, 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 very tragic. So I wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. Now, staying with the digital rights theme here today. Last week on the show, we talked about Amazon's most dangerous merger yet, where they merged with both iRobot and One Medical being a healthcare company. So Jeff Bezos is getting into healthcare now. He's going to try to monopolize it. That's what's going to happen. Check out last week's episode where we break it down in depth. What I want to do this week is do a quick follow-up here. Amazon.com deal for iRobot blasted by pro-privacy labor groups. So the FTC is supposed to act on this stuff and go, well, maybe this is a bad thing, this merger. But whether it's Time Warner or Disney or Amazon or whoever's going to be next week, the FTC seems to be asleep at the wheel. So here's what's happening instead. A group of some 20 pro-privacy and work organizations, including Public Citizen and Fight for the Future, I work with Fight for the Future, full disclaimer, urge U.S. antitrust enforcers Friday to stop Amazon from buying iRobot Core, making the robot vacuum cleaner Roomba. In their letter, the groups argued that the deal would strengthen Amazon.com's already powerful position in the smart home devices. So they're urging the FTC to do something. Amazon.com, to the surprise of nobody, could not be reached immediately for comment. So let's go to the letter itself. We're going to break down the letter here. This is the letter from Fight for the Future and other groups. This is the letter is to the FTC here, as you can see. Dear Chair Khan and commissioners, the undersigned organizations strongly encourage the FTC to use its authority to challenge Amazon's proposed acquisition of iRobot. The proposed deal poses a striking set of concern related to consumer privacy and market competition. If consummated, the iRobot purchase would further weaken competition in the smart home device market and entrench Amazon's powerful market position in the wider structure of the digital economy. Amazon already dominates the smart home device market. Amazon's business model largely relies on acquiring rivals, sometimes in adjacent markets, and then rapidly expanding through anti-competitive predatory pricing while leveraging vast troves of consumer data to grow its overall grip on the economy. What they're basically saying here is Amazon harvests your data to sell you generic shit. That's what they're saying. For example, Amazon acquired smart doorbell maker Ring in 2018. By the time of the deal, Ring was already a popular seller of internet-connected video doorbells. By 2021, Amazon Ring had crushed competing smart doorbell makers. Amazon seeks to follow a similar path in buying iRobot. There is no more private space than the home. Yet with this acquisition, Amazon stands to gain access to extremely intimate facts about our most private spaces that are not available through other means or to other competitors. This information goes beyond home floor plans and includes highly detailed information about the interior of consumer homes and the lifestyle of the inhabitants. Giving Amazon access to this kind of private information through the acquisition hurts consumers. And here who all has signed on. Obviously, I didn't read the entire letter. You can go ahead and read that at your leisure. Fight for the Future, Public Citizen, Athena, Main Street Alliance, National Employment Law Project, Demand Progress, Make the Road New York, American Economic Liberties Project, the Center for Popular Democracy Action, International Brotherhood of Teamsters. The Teamsters are on board with this as well. Institute of Local Self-Reliance. A lot of organizations here. To read this letter in its entirety, you can go to fightforthefuture.org. So that is happening. Meanwhile, speaking of Amazon, a way you can fight back on Amazon now is to go to antitrustsummer.com. And here's a little bit of news in regards to antitrustsummer.com. And it's not great news, but it's news of a pulse. Klobuchar, big truck antitrust legislation isn't dead. Again, not the most encouraging, but something. Senator Amy Klobuchar said the push to pass her antitrust legislation targeting the largest tech companies isn't dead, despite the bill waiting for a scheduled floor vote. Klobuchar made her latest endorsement for the future for her American Innovation and Online Choice Act. The bill, co-sponsored by Chuck Grassley, aims to limit tech companies. So they don't know when this is going to happen. Chuck Schumer did promise a vote this fall. First, he promised to vote in the summer. Now he promised to vote before, or then he promised to vote before the August recess. Now he's promising a vote in the fall. Well, it's September now. We're still waiting on a vote. Now, here's something Amy Klobuchar said. She also said that the upcoming midterm elections may not be a hard deadline for the legislation to pass, even if Republicans gain control of the House and Senate, since the bill has bipartisan support in both chambers. Now, I don't know if that's legit or not. It's hard to say, but this bill does have a lot of bipartisan support. That is true. A version of the bill advanced out of the House Judiciary Committee last year, along with a slate of other antitrust bills targeting the tech giants. In August, a spokesperson for Chuck Schumer said he plans to call the bill to a floor vote, but did not provide a timeline. Schumer's statement came roughly a week after Bloomberg reported that the senator told donors he doesn't think the bill has the votes to pass. A couple Reuters reports, Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley dispute that. They say the votes are there. Supporters of the proposal in the Senate and House have dismissed criticism that the bills do not have the votes to pass and have been strongly pushing for votes in both chambers. Folks, we got to fight back. We got to fight this with all we got. This is the most, and I know I talk about this every week on the show, so you're familiar with it by now. This is the most significant antitrust legislation the United States has seen since the 1980s. So 40 years, over 40 years, this is the most significant antitrust legislation we've seen. This starts breaking up big tech. Go to antitrustsummer.com, please, and sign the petition. It takes less than 40 seconds. Please do it if you haven't already. Antitrustsummer.com. Again, antitrustsummer.com. Thank you guys so much. Let me go over to the chat here. And Venetia David, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Hey, Ron, thanks so much for making Lucian available on Patreon. I can't wait to watch it. Thank you so much for that, Venetia. And to everyone watching, if you are not a member of my Patreon and you are able and interested in joining, patreon.com/Ron Placone. For give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including you can watch my performance as Lucian, which premiered on Saturday. The video is available to Patreon and Rockman Premium members. It will not be available anywhere else because I want to pitch it to Renaissance festivals across the country and across the world. So that video is not going to be public. So patreon.com/Ron Placone. Even $1 a month goes a long way. So if you're thinking, hey, I won't miss $1 a month, and I want to see Ron's solution video, patreon.com/Ron Placone. That's all it takes, folks. All it takes. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys for asking about Lucian. It was fun. I know I mentioned this on the show. I premiered Lucian on Saturday, this past Saturday, in my neighborhood here of San Pedro, California, in the South Bay of Los Angeles. And it was a fun afternoon. Some people showed up, which I really appreciate. I was worried no one was going to show up. Like, it was like the event started at 2 p.m. It was like 5 to 2. And it was just my wife, myself, and my neighbor sitting there. And I'm like, well, you guys are going to have to laugh really freaking loud. And then a bunch of people just showed up. A couple people were accidentally inside because they didn't realize it was outdoors. So I felt bad. They missed part of the show because they showed up. They were inside, not realizing that it was outside. So my bad on that. But yeah, it was just an outdoor show at the corner store in San Pedro. And got a good tape out of it, which again, patreon.com/Rob Placone if you want to watch that tape. And I look forward to seeing what's next with the show. I'm already kind of looking into what's going to be next. I'll likely be starting with some Renaissance festivals near me in Southern California. And also, if I'm touring a certain area and there are Renaissance festivals going on simultaneously, I might try to do Lucian while I'm on the road with stand-up too. I'll try to do both. So we'll see. I mean, that's going to take some planning. That's going to take some strategy. But I am looking into it. So thank you guys for your encouragement there. And thank you for the kind words there. And I'll be announcing 2023 tour dates really soon. Some of my tour dates in 23 are going to include a screening of my short film Loner, which, by the way, you can watch Loner now, again, if you're a Patreon or a Rockfin Premium member. Loner, my short film about a guy who goes through the pandemic realizing he could be a millionaire. It's a comedy. A guy goes through lockdown realizing he could be a millionaire if he would have invested in his ex-girlfriend's idea, because her idea was Zoom. Basically, we call it something else. We call it Vroom. But basically, her idea was Zoom. She asked him to invest in it. He said no. So he could be a millionaire. And he has to go through lockdown knowing that. It's a comedy about that. You can watch that right now. Patreon.com/RobLaCode. And you can watch my performance as Lucian right now. Patreon.com/RobLaCode. $1 a month. All it takes for that. So I know it's a tough time. That's why my Patreon is a total give what you can. I'm interested in building a community. I don't care. I don't care what the dollar amount is. I care more about your membership than anything else. So even $1 a month goes a long way. Patreon.com/RobLaCode. And here's to the future of Lucian. And again, AntitrustSummer.com. And 2023 tour dates coming soon. UK, I'm coming. Iceland, I'm coming. American Midwest, I'm coming. Tucson, I'm coming. San Diego, I'm coming. Los Angeles, I'm sure. I mean, I live here, so we'll be doing something. And those are the main areas I'm going to be concentrating on in 2023. But in the meantime, Patreon.com/RobLaCode if you want to check out that Lucian video. And thank you all for being here. Thank you again, Venetia, for the super chat. You help keep this show on the air. And to everybody out there, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. And I say peace, love, and a general strike. See you next week.